And so welcome to the call as a bunch of people are jumping on. And as I just told the people prior to starting the recording, talk a little bit about talking about chiropractic and the appointment book, right? All practices still today into 2024. And if you've been in practice 40 years, as some of us are looking at, we still need new patients. And I believe that who you are and the magnetism that you have, and as you live your life, should also generate a large amount of them, in addition to all the marketing that we do around. And so, my specific 0 to 200 program, if you're in a practice growth phase, if you'd like to grow your practice in the next 90 days by 50 visits, by 100 visits, or grow by 100 visits in 6 months, or whatever your vision is, in the 0 to 200 program, there's 15 lessons with downloads, with other resources designed to build the right number of new patients and to build the right retention, right? To really look at your day one, your day two, your regular office visit, your re-exam, your graduation visit, look at all of your marketing, look at your mindset to get clear on the real need in your community right now today, as we sit at 1 o'clock Eastern time on March 12th, 2024, right? And so again, I would like to invite all of you that have never heard me give you this challenge. The question is, all of the people that we do not see in a chiropractic practice, where do these people actually in the real world go? And I would really encourage you to walk or drive to whatever the nearest pharmacy is, CVS, Walgreens, maybe even in a supermarket, right? And, I would challenge you. My unscientific estimation is that wherever you go, if you're on this call, if you're listening to this message, that pharmacy is going to have 500 prescriptions waiting to be picked up. And so there is this model that we all live in, which is better health through chemistry. And we actually stand as at least a additional or different voice to that, in trying to minimize the need for 500 prescriptions a day being filled in every single community across North America. And so my 0 to 200 is designed to help you build a practice specifically. For those of you that have not joined the Facebook group, and I should have the link, but I don't have it. But if you go to Facebook and find me, my Facebook group, I share a bunch of resources. And so I'd like to invite you to that. And today I'd like you to listen for takeaways and things that you can apply into your practice in 57 minutes when we're done speaking. And so at the end, I'll ask for that. Also, if you have any wins or shares in general and like to share that, again, either by sharing audio and speaking or by chat, I'm happy to engage in that. And so what are the things that we could think about to talk about when we're talking about chiropractic, is to talk about what it is, to talk about patient stories, to talk about the doc, right? To talk about research, and to talk about your actual experience, both if you're a patient, if you're an employee, if you're a doc. And if you're a doc, sharing your pathway to how you became a chiropractic doc. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm sorry, I'm Dr. Lee Newman. I guess I should introduce myself. I invited a bunch of guests on today. If you were invited, I had your email, which is why you were invited. And I'm from Western Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh. I practiced for 24 years, hands-on. I worked with associates to build out 16 other practices, mostly in Western Pennsylvania, that I successfully sold to associates. Some may even be on this call. And have coached chiropractors pretty consecutively since 1997, which is now coming up on 30 years. And so all I can do is laugh about that. But I'm a second generation chiropractor. I joke, but there's really lots of truth, right? After Little League didn't work out, there was nothing that I wanted to do other than become a chiropractor. And there's a whole group of us, multi-generationals. And there's another large group of docs that they always knew they wanted to help people and they were into healthcare. And however they checked out mainstream medical healthcare, it turned them off, or it wasn't what they wanted to do, and they discovered chiropractic. And hearing that story is always inspirational. And then there's a third group which experienced some type of cure themselves, whether it was athletic or a disease process, or they were a chronic sufferer or musculoskeletal pain, and that introduced them to chiropractic. And those are the three main positive streamways of how your doc became your doc. So sharing that experience as well. And so when we talk about chiropractic, we're the largest alternative healthcare system in the world. And you should know that chiropractors, we speak as a philosophy, science, and art of chiropractic. And so the science of chiropractic, is all of the research around clinically what we're doing. And for example, for how spines move and how they're out of place and how they might be strengthened and put back into place. And then docs do a bunch of other stuff in addition to that, which might include strengthening muscles or dealing in nutrition or a bunch of other stuff. But all of the science around that is the science. The art, in my mind, and one of the experience that I've had as a second generation 61-year-old chiropractor now is I've been adjusted by hundreds, perhaps thousands of different chiropractors, and can tell pretty much instantly when any chiropractor puts his or her hand on me, like how the experience is going to be. And actually had a unique experience last week. As I travel, I still get to visit a bunch of different chiropractors. And I had another doc that was actually my senior, had been in practice longer than me. And being adjusted, he was a big burly guy and had what I am affectionately going to call meat hands. And if you've ever been adjusted by that type of guy, but it reminded me of being adjusted by my father, right? And so for me, it was a positive experience. And so this is really the art of what we do. And to really, I would hope that all of you are getting adjusted by your doc, and the docs, take their, one of their senior level skills. And my standard is that any doc should be able to adjust any segment on any patient in any direction that's necessary, and to also know when any given day it may not work out. And it's weird to know that, but there's an energy that is created, and there will be times where, trying to do less is better than doing more. And so one of the mantras in my house growing up, to share another personal, right, is, I can remember my dad, by the way, would work 3 evenings a week from 6 to 8 p.m. And so we actually ate dinner at 5 o'clock. He would come home after the little afternoon rush. We'd eat dinner, and then he would go back and see patients 3 days a week. And so one of his mantras is the power that made the body healed the body. And that's the 50,000 level view of what chiropractic really is, that still today, after being discovered in 1895, is poorly understood, right? And so really what the chiropractor does, in a state of health, people are shut off from invasion of germs. So we believe that there is a life force in the body, right? The difference between a living human and one that passes away, what's that difference in that 10 or 15 minutes or 2 hours later? We believe that the life force that animates the body has left the body. This life force maintains the body in health, right? Flowing from the brain down through the nervous system to every other cell, tissue, organ, and system in the body. And so when the spine goes out of place, it can cause an interference to this communication system that goes from the brain to every other part of the body through the nervous system. So what we ate today and every day, and the exercise that we get, and the water that we take, and the air that we breathe, and the rest that we get, all of it contributes to our systemic, holistic, I'll think of the word in a second, homeostatic health. And it's really the power that chiropractic has to work in. So the opportunity that we have is to offer any vertebrate, I was going to say human, but there's even vet chiropractors that take care of our horses and dogs and cats and other pets, and farm type animals. But let's just stick with humans, right? And so what typically happens is how we bend, twist, carry the accidents that we're in, the stressors, the pollutants that we deal with on a daily basis of the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, overall leads our body to distort and go out of position. And so our role as a chiropractor is to find these interferences to the nervous system and restore them. And so the second thing to talk about after talking about what chiropractic is, the power, so we restore the body's power to heal itself. Our patient stories, right? And to look for and to capture and to share when appropriate, different patient stories. The acute patient that walks in and they were crawling and they're able to leave in either 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, 2 weeks, kind of function free, able to do what they need and want to do. The chronic patients that have experienced ongoing headaches, leg pain, sciatica, low back pain in episodes year after year for decades. The traumatic patients that were in car accidents or slip and fall, cradle to grave, to share baby stories of asthmatic babies, of babies with croup, right? And so all human expression symptom is the result of the body malfunctioning, right? And so around that as well are different payment types. Similar but different are patient case studies where we share kind of clinically, this was Joe, he had headaches, this is what his spine looked like, this is what we did with Joe, here was Joe's results, which is different than just the story, right? The typical American goes through more physical, chemical, and emotional stress in 30 days than their grandparents did in their entire lifetimes. And so this is a senior level CA, DC, working in a chiropractic practice maxim that we should try to remember and really reinforce amongst all of us on a regular basis, is to remember that we're dealing with people that are most stressed that they've ever been, right? And I actually want to recognize it. And again, last week, I taught day one new patient history, right? To just ask patients 0 to 10, how much stress do you feel that you're under, and where do you hold that stress? And again, my interesting observation is pretty much every single new patient will have an answer. Like I'm like a 7, and like I hold it in my neck, or I hold it in my lower back, or I hold it in my foot. And so, do you have a personal answer? And so it's an interesting answer. Talk about your doc. And I just got finished speaking with Dr. Shannon, and Dr. Shannon was my first super associate. Started working with me. Just to brag about Dr. Shannon, she graduated on a Saturday from Logan College in April of 1999. So coming up on 25 years next month. Graduated on a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 days later, had her Pennsylvania license in her hand and was able to take over as clinic director of my first satellite practice. And so the backstory was I opened and we had a successful opening. And then I actually committed probably one of my biggest learning lessons in working with associates. And I fractured the relationship with my successful associate. And so I had been about 6 months trying to find an adequate replacement. And Dr. Shannon took over, and pretty much the rest is history. She's gone on to build a hugely successful practice now for 25 years in the North Hills of Pittsburgh, continues to service the community today. And, so we should know our doc's story and all of the awards and the years in practice and the hundreds or thousands of people that we serve, all the community interactions. And, you served in Kiwanis or on the chamber or whatever, at the church or whatever the activity is, right? I've been a Steelers season ticket holder since 1973, right? Like whatever the personal story is for your doc. To talk about research, right? Since the early days, and there's more and more today. If you were to just Google chiropractic research, there would be research that anyone could kind of get the gist of. And what we're finding is that posture affects function. If we can improve the way that people's posture their posture is, and the way that their spines move, that in fact we do restore the nervous system. And as we've been talking about since 1895, is pretty much the way that it works, right? A study that was published in the Holland Medical Journal reported that out of a group of 115 families with asthmatic children, 73% had utilized chiropractic care, and 92% reported that chiropractic was beneficial for their children. And so this was a common occurrence in practice. Dr. Jeannie, my associate of 13 years, was a whiz and had many, many patients, babies to teenagers and adults for that matter, that were asthmatics that responded favorably to care. If you don't understand this connection, you should speak with your doc and really, try to understand. And if you can observe it in your practice, to really take that in both personally and find a way to share it. Your experience as an employee, all of the patient stories, how we service our patients, the concern that we have. Generally you wouldn't be on this call if you weren't a shared nature of golden rule service, of trying to provide the best possible service. We want patients leaving with, that was the best day one experience I've ever had with a new doctor. That was the best 37th adjustment I've ever had at a chiropractor. This office knows the most and cares the most about me. And it's also why we're able to get market or even better rate, what people are willing to pay for. And so all of this is important. And then my last share here, and we'll jump into the appointment book as whoever's coming on is coming on, is this is Dr. B.J. Palmer. He is known as the developer of chiropractic. He died in 1961. So he was around from the beginning, 1895 to 1961. Without him, the profession would not have succeeded. And again, this is a good place to just share. They made a stamp of him, and he's a hero of mine, and he's worth exploring if you get that opportunity. All right, switching gears, just coming up for that. Any takeaways from what you heard so far? Anybody like to share? You can unmute and share if you like. If not, all right, here we go back with the screen share. And so I'm looking for takeaways at the end here. The appointment book. All right. And so the appointment book is the keeper of all future appointments. All right. And so one of the things that we want to do, and typically this is in a computer at this point, all right? It's been that way for many years. And so no matter where we schedule a person from, it's the internet, we meet them at an event, all of our regular patients, all of our former patients that are coming back, any appointment that's actually made for later, even later this afternoon. That might have a slightly different answer, but certainly tomorrow, it goes into the appointment book. When patients schedule at the end of day 2, and I'm going to teach that we should recommend the care that they need and then schedule it. One common model is 36 visits over 12 to 16 weeks. We should schedule all of those visits. All future appointments go into the computer software. Now, I am still in 2024 today an advocate of running your current day off of both the computer, but also a big paper appointment book that looks like this, right? And so if you actually look at this, there's room for 16 people, regulars on each of the hours, and then at 9:15, room for specials, right? And so there's room in this appointment book. We actually had these printed up with times specifically for us, but you can actually get at this point just from Amazon a 5-column, 200-page appointment book, relatively cheap. We used to spend hundreds of dollars getting these printed, but you could list over 200 visits a day. The left side is the morning, the right side is the afternoon. And so each day was like this. And in the olden days, you have to manually put in all of those multiple visits that I talked about. And so the CA would spend a large part of her day going like this, kind of, 36 visits for 3 patients is whatever that is, 96 visits. And then like the patient decides, oh, I can't come at 4:30, I want to come at 10. And then you have to erase 36 visits and put 36 more in. So, that was dealt with the computer. And so even today, one of the things that on any software that, like if I'm offered a demo, right, I still don't love any practice software. I've never seen one that handles all of the issues that I think that it should handle. This is one of those issues. You should be able to put in any number of visits with frequencies like Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4:30, 36 visits, enter, and boom, it should be done. And if the patient wants to now come at 10:30, edit, 4:30 becomes 10:30, done, right? And so doing multiple appointments in the computer should be simple. One of the other things that I want to keep track of as a related point is at the end of each day, for the next 7 days. So today is Tuesday. So tonight at 6 o'clock, at 6:15 when you leave. From tomorrow, Wednesday through next Tuesday, every day I want to know how many people are scheduled, how many appointments are in the book, so that we can measure momentum. We can measure how well we're scheduling people. Are we keeping track of everybody? Are we losing people? Right? All right. And so oftentimes with the bigger paper book, I'll still hear this criticism or objection. My front desk is not big enough to handle it. And I would, this is sort of satirical, but also literal. Get a bigger front desk. And so no matter how many people you put in this book, right, it's going to look empty, which is part of the psychology that we want to have all day long. So even at 200 a day, like maybe you even get a bigger book at that point, but like we'll talk about that once you achieve it. But you don't need to achieve it. But wanting to see 50 in a day as part of 200 in a week for a sole practitioner is righteous. It's what I consider to be a warrior. You're doing your job in your community. 200 visits a week and 50 weeks a year is 10,000 visits. If you have multiple docs, then you multiply it by those numbers, right? And so if you're part of a 4 or 5 or 6 doc office, right, that could be, well over 100 visits regularly on a regular basis. So having a system that works is important, all right? The big physical books, all right, we're going to create blocks in the book, and a block can essentially be one of 3 general things that we're going to then specifically define. Regular visits. So we want chunks of time for regular visits. And what I'm going to recommend, and many people do it different ways, after 38 years, really 61 years of experience, I really recommend that you set your appointment book up in 30-minute chunks. Not 15, not 7.5. I know people that even do every 3 minutes. And just as a patient, right? I've been an active patient for many years now where I go and like pay for care and I'm on a schedule, right? Trying to tell somebody that you're at 10:12 in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it's hard to shoot for. If I have a half an hour that I can shoot for, I can basically make it every time. 2 is specials, new patients or reports. We're going to talk about that. And then 3 is to build in during the week at least 2, but as many 30-minute administration times that everybody needs to do all the work that's necessary, that's nonstop. All of the filing and all of the follow-up and all the insurance verification, all of the notes and all of the collections work. And, if you're doing reports for any type of litigation or personal injury, anything else that happens, all of the marketing stuff, social media stuff, right? And so there's administrative time that we can build in so that nothing should be more than a week behind, and not even that, right? And so that billing is never missed, so that notes are done each day, so that any report that's requested we respond to, and any other, one-offs that occur on somewhat seeming like a regular basis. And so there's a daily ritual of filling in the appointment book either at the end of the day for the next day or prior to unlocking the door for the current day, but certainly before the first patient is seen in the morning, or if it's a half day in the afternoon. And in fact, we want to even have our powwow kind of around, a stand-up meeting before we unlock the door each day, right? What do we have scheduled today? What were our new patients and day 2s yesterday? Who's today? Where are our prime times today? who did what yesterday, any new business for the team, a quick visualization, unlock the door, we're ready to serve another 50 people, another 70 people, another 100 people today. And like with our service commitment, remember this, all of us, right? We're the brickiest and mortarist businesses left. And what that does, it gives us the ability to stand out from a customer service basis. And so think of all the customer service that you get all day long at all different businesses, on the phone, by computer, in person. And like, how do we fit in there? And typically the experience for any practice on this call is far superior. But we also run that risk. We're still humans, all of us. And so we run that risk every single visit, for which we hope there's hundreds for each individual person, that we can do something to fracture that relationship. And so we have to be dedicated to leaving our worries outside the office. And when it's time to serve, like, we have our service hats on and we're there to take care of our flock that's there to be taken care of. And so that becomes the ritual around the appointment book, right? Talked about the big book. I like the color code my appointment book. If we go back to here, yellow is they made their appointment. Pink is they rescheduled. And so like this day, a bunch of reschedules. If there were blue, blue is they blew us off, meaning they didn't make the appointment and they did not reschedule. And my easy way to remember it is that it's blue and they blew us off, as opposed to pink, where we contacted them, they contacted us, we texted, they emailed, and they're not coming today, they're coming tomorrow, right? And so this is one of the areas to get a little bit better on, is I would still consider it to be blue if they didn't make up the actual number of visits per week that that patient clinically needs. And so if they're twice a week and they only want to come once that week, and they call and they tell you, I'm not coming Wednesday, but I'll be there Monday, or not coming today, but I'll be there Monday, and we don't get them rescheduled, right? Maybe it's even a fourth color. In any case, anybody that does not rescheduled, the system for the kept appointment procedures should be started. And so typically that means the person needs to be identified, perhaps a paper travel card is tagged, the digital file is tagged, and we start the communication to get the person rescheduled. And at the end of the day, the doc is notified, right? Again, all the computer holds all future appointments, all the counters in terms of money or diagnosis, or we need to do X after Y number of visits. Again, I'm a believer in paper notes on the back of a paper travel card at the time of visit that get transposed into software, which builds bulletproof notes for each visit in whatever format is necessary for the patient in your jurisdiction, right? The computer should feed the daily schedule. And again, the goal would be, depending on whether you're a night person or a morning person, before the first person the next day, all new appointments are put into the system, right? I really liked it before the end of day, right? I kind of insisted on it, but some people are more morning people. But before the first person the next day, all new visits need to be into the computer. And again, we want to keep track of that on a daily basis. All right, batches. And like, this is biscuits. I'm a big believer. Still, one of the challenges of now being a nomadic traveler is I've given up all of my kitchen tools and don't have a mixer anymore. And so I miss the ability to be able to make batches of biscuits as a graduate of the Nashville Biscuit School, right? And so what you need to ask for regular visits, 30 minutes. So we're going to unlock the door on a Monday. What time are you going to do that? And so for me, it was posted at 10 and we would unlock at 9:30. Depending on your urbanness, it might be even as early as 6:30 in the morning, perhaps even earlier, and perhaps like 10 or even 10:30, depending on where you practice. But at some point you unlock the door. And so at that point, during whenever your prime time is, 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, noon, whenever it is, how many people can you effectively see regularly in 30 minutes? And so the good news is that even at 6, you can see 200 a week without a problem. But it turns out that as you're able to do it, this is like, lifting more weight or running faster. It becomes easier. It's an oxymoron. It's easier to see more people in less time. And so your doc will have a natural rhythm. Like, a veteran doc can see certainly 10 people in 30 minutes, but even 8 is enough, 6 is enough. And some can see 12 or more. It's just the way that it works out. And if you see families, that number is even skewed more because you can see 2, 3, 4, 6 in the time that it might take 2 for, 2 regular visits. And so the question becomes is how many people do you want to schedule for 30 minutes? And if you're not at 6 yet, I want to encourage you to try it. And so pick one time, Monday at 4:30, right? And just fill that with 6 appointments, right? Ideally, it should be the same time for 3 days in the week. So it's 4:30 Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, depending on how it is in your office. And just work to get those 6 filled in. And then see how it feels for everybody in the office. And in fact, we're going to build prime time, which is another point here. There should sort of be an official mindset that occurs. Perhaps there's a song that plays, or like in my mind, for those of you that it's just me and Dr. Kim that'll be able to appreciate this. Dr. Mimi as well. I guess Dr. Lawrence too. Is the Fred Flintstone whistle of quitting time at 5 o'clock, right? And I want that to kind of go off in our head, the little chime that goes off, and now it's prime time. And I want the whole team to be focused on service at prime time. In fact, if your only takeaway today was this, I would be happy. If you can double your service during prime time, you can double your practice. If you can double your service during prime time, you can double your practice. And so that's an important. And so how many people can you see? And so 6 plus regulars. I would also use a batch to schedule 1 regular non-marketing new patient. Now you have 30 minutes. The doc needs to be done in 30 minutes. I would schedule up to 2 marketing new patients. If I was at an event, I was speaking, I was at a health fair, I did a screening, I would much rather have 2 people scheduled at 10 times in the next 48 hours than 5 people scheduled over the next 4 days, right? And so I would try to compress it, and I would rather have double, and I would become a master at being able to see 2 new patients at once, right? And so double. One regular report of findings, one regular report of findings, or it's admin time. And so we want to build our days and then our week from these 30-minute blocks, right? And that's the appointment book. Now, a special, again, 1 regular new patient, 2 marketing new patients, 1 report of findings, 1 real reactivation. All of you kind of know there are a group of people in our practices, like they come 4 times a year. We might count them as a reactivation, but they're really not a reactivation. They're really a 4-time-a-year people. And so this is somebody that's really back, either for a short period that wants to address something that's 2, 3, 12 visits, or like this is the time where they get it and like they really want to fix it now. That's a reactivation and they need the time. And again, all of these are 30 minutes. And what I want all of us to do, and what docs I want you to empower your team to do, is to be able to time where we are. And so this isn't about shaving off the last 1/8 second and like you get out of the pits faster. This is about spending the appropriate time doing the appropriate actions. One of the challenge with any new employee is spending the appropriate time in the appropriate action. And so we just want to be aware of it. And so, on day 1, the doctor has 8 minutes for the history, 12 minutes for the exam, and 8 minutes for the x-rays, and 30 minutes. Day 1 should be done. On day 2, it should be 30 minutes, including the report of findings, and then the trip out front to triangulate the patient, and then they go back for a first visit. And I'm normally able to do that within the 30 minutes, but even if not, like other patients, now you're back in public and like it's all good. And so you should know what your times are. If you're outside of those, you should really be working on reducing those. Oftentimes it's in doing stuff that's not appropriate for that particular visit, or in the docs or the staff person's ability to like ask a question, get an answer, and then record it. And so it's just a matter of doing it a bunch of different times. And so if you're in an office where the doc is taking too long and you feel that you're not empowered, you can reach directly out to me and I will address the issue. Admin times. And so what do you do during these times, right? New patient workups. And so there's a financial element to it. There's a clinical element to it, and like marking the x-rays and getting the diagnosis in correctly. And is the date of birth in right? And can we send out claims, or is the patient set up, and all of that, right? All of the notes. And so, there's the SOAP notes tend to be in a different status. And like, there's always a set of those that we could look at or that we can enter that we can make better. Any report that's waiting to be produced from the office, any emails around the business, around clinical or marketing or administrative or the community or whatever it is, any phone calls that we need to return. And if to use it for marketing time, this week we want to focus on social media. How can we create 5 pieces of content and where can we distribute it? And like, that's everybody's mission to spend 30 minutes on that this week or whatever it is. And so we build our week up that way. Returning to prime time, typically it's at least 60 minutes. As the practice grows, it can be up to 2 hours, sometimes even longer than that, right? A real practice that's at capacity would be prime time all the time. And, that's fun to look at just for a second. What would it look like to see 12 people every half hour and to do that 8 times a day, 8 times 12, right? So that's 96. And so imagine having, both 8 specials, any combination, 4 new and 4 report of findings. And, that's pretty much the way that it worked. That's 104 in a day. And I ran, our Mondays were over 100 for 20 years. There were years where I was over 20,000 visits, which is 400 a week regularly. And so this is readily doable. And again, the need is still out there today. And so it turns out to be righteous all the way around. The dog wags the tail. The business will be massive if we service the right number of people. And so what does prime time look like? Again, the bell should whistle and it's prime time. And so under prime time, even though we would never look at like the cell phone or the internet for personally, even though we'd never be on a personal email or on a website, even though we wouldn't be distracted in any way, shape, or form when we're on the clock, all of us, including me, during prime time, we're truly dedicated. And this is the time of service, and we're gonna deliver this maximum amount of service in a short amount of time. And so everybody, like, the bell rings and it's prime time, and like there's a consciousness on it. And so we have, starting with 2, then 3, and then 4 back to back to back regular time slots. 6, 12, 18, 24, or 12, 24, 36, 48 visits in 2 hours. There are still practices today that do that regularly all the time. We're checking and we're adjusting. And as the chiropractor, we're in that rare time, right? It's 2 hours, 3 times a week, typically. We're in that rare time where we get to be the artist, the chiropractor. We can be with our patients one after the other. And what happens is we can be more focused and deliver better care, right? And so we get to deliver better care to higher numbers of people in a shorter amount of period of time. And so what I want as a consumer, as a patient, as a practice member, whatever term you use, right? I want an effective adjustment. I wanted the ham hands adjustment. And like, when my neck was adjusted, I felt that it was the proper adjustment. And like, I'm a master at assessing that. And so when I can deliver that best, which is one after the other rapidly, I can deliver better care. And so we're checking, we're focused, we're servicing at the front desk, we're one stop, people are moving around. If you're in an exercise adjustment treatment protocol or treatment and therapy protocol, right, that's happening, it's all happening. The charges are getting entered, the SOAP note is getting done on the travel card, people are moving around, and now prime time is over and we service 24 people. And so now the notes can get transferred into the software. Any loose ends that need to happen for the day, we do the day in between day 1 and day 2. We do the finances, we do the, making sure that the computer file is set up correctly, the clinical stuff is correctly, and we're ready to go. No matter what we do, there will be a group of people that they need to be floaters, right? And so first off, some of them don't. And so really work towards, getting people pinned down to dates and times, but others just have to be based on their lives. And so, basically, here's what I do. Anyone that's once a week or less, they all go at the same time. Typically, it's Thursday after we close. So like Thursday at 7 p.m., Joe Smith gets entered for an appointment as an F for floater. If Joe comes in anytime before Thursday at 7 o'clock, we just take that appointment and we process it. If Joe does not come in, by 5 o'clock, we then start to identify Joe and we start to reach out to him. It's been a week, we haven't seen you. Let's get you scheduled. And so that's how it works. When they're more than once a week, you got to put them in twice that way and kind of manually manage it or semi-manually manage it. It becomes a little bit of a hassle, but it's better than not trying to handle it at all. And so that's how I handle floaters. So on Thursdays, you should have, 15 people at 7 o'clock, but they're in and they're accounted for in the 7-day number of who's scheduled. 10 of the 15 will show up during the week. We only need to reach out to 5. 50 in a day, 45 regular, 3 new patients. It could be 8 regular time slots. So it's only 4 hours. 5 special time slots. Now we're only at 6.5, right? 6.5 clinical hours, 100% service. And we can actually, separate from that, dozens of times, perhaps hundreds of times, but dozens of times for sure, I had 10 or more new patients in a day. And so again, I would like for you to use that concept as a brainstorm, to mind map, to conceptualize, to conjure up, what would 10 new patients in a day look like in my practice? And if that hurts your head too much, at least do this one, which all of you should be able to do. What would 20 new patients in a week look like? What are the pieces of making that happen? And I think that you should try to have 10 new patients in a day and or 20 new patients in a week, once a month in your practice. And like this would address the new patient issue. Where do they go, right? And so there is a trick here. Are you there, Dr. Fenn?
Yeah.
There you go. Do you know the four suits of cards?
You got the spade, you got the ace. No, wait. You got the spade, you got the club, you got the diamond, and you got the heart.
That's right. Pick 2 of those.
Heart and diamond.
Awesome. What are the other 2?
Spade and club.
Pick one of those.
Club.
Awesome. What's the other one?
The other one is going to be the other spade.
If it's not club, if it's spades and clubs and not clubs, what is it?
Is it spades and clubs and not clubs, and it's spades?
That's right. And now pick 5 consecutive spades.
Okay, 5 is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Great. Pick 2 of those.
2 and 4.
Great. What's in between those?
3 of spades.
No matter what you said, you were saying the 3 of spades. And I go through this at this time to illustrate that you should have an idea of where you want to see the patient. And so as you're going in both the doc and the CA, so as the report of findings, thank you, Dr. Fenn, as we're going through the report of findings, you should have an idea. And so is it a primetime person or not? And so if they're coming after work, they're driving through the community, they're going to stop on their way home, they're prime time. And so now they're 4:30 or 5, and we're going to get them set up, and that's our mindset. If they're not prime time, then we definitely don't want to do them then, and we want to do them at 11. Everybody can see more people at 11 or whatever that time is for you. And so I want to have a mindset of where I want this person. And again, I want them to schedule whatever the frequency is. Typically, we start at 3 times a week, right? I want them Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4:30. And we want to know where they go, and they go into our specials on the appointments, and we direct that. 80% will comply and they go where we want them to go. The 20% that don't, then we need to deal with it. You should have a secondary time, and occasionally you should then have to go look and find the time that's right. But you should know where they want to go. And so here's what 57 looks like on a Monday. 9 at 6, and then a new patient. 6 at 10, and then a report of findings. 6 at 11, and then 2 new patients. 6 at noon, and then a report of findings. We've seen 29 people. Right? We then take 2.5 hours off. At 3, we see 6. We then see 2 marketing new patients at 3:30. we see 6 at 4, we then have a report of findings, we see 6 at 5, 6 at 6:30, we do a report of findings at 6, and we've now seen 57 total, 5 new, 4 report of findings by ourselves with no more than 6 scheduled every 30 minutes. And we're going to be able to see 57, no problem. And if you did that 3 times a day, that's 173 or something like that, 171, something like that. 171. And so we see the other 30 on 2 half days, perhaps even 1 half day, and we see 203.5 days. If you're not there yet, I think you should be working harder. It's a real simple test, right? Did you see 800 people in the last 4 weeks? If so, thumbs up, big star on your forehead. And now it's time to add an associate. Now it's time where you can look at work-life balance. If not, you should be working double and down. The need is tremendous. The value to us, how much is every extra visit worth money-wise, business-wise, as well as what happens to people that we do not reach, right? They go to drugs, they go to surgery, they go to other answers. 20 on a Monday, if that's a big day right now, what's it look like? Well, I see 6 at 9, 6 at 12, a report of findings at 3, 6 at 5. I don't see 18 regulars at 18 different times. I use all of that time, to be a better doctor under compressed times, right? It's still 6.5 an hour. I then use all the other time to see more than 20. I create content. I go out of the office and meet business people in the community. I network. I meet attorneys. I meet medical doctors. I build, I write content for Facebook, etc. And so I'm spending the time to see more than 20. I don't stretch out the time to fill the day to feel like I'm busy. It's always just what the patient needs, which is typically we could see 6 in 30 minutes, no problem. Saturdays, right? Saturdays are killer. It's not the hush and bush of a regular day. There are people that can only come on Saturdays. We can use it as a makeup day for anybody that hasn't made up all of their visits. We're open Saturday from 9 to 11 or whatever you're open, right? Typically, I would start with everybody at one time. I'm open for 30 minutes. I schedule the 4 people that want to schedule for Saturday. Whoever else shows up, I see. We fill it in. I now have 8 people. I'm open for an hour. I fill 6 and 6. If I have a new one, it's before or after. If I have a report of findings, it's before or after. You can build Saturdays to whatever you want. But, working for 3 hours, seeing 40 people, having 2 new and 2 reports is a fun Saturday. It's a whole different vibe, and I strongly recommend it. Here's another fact. Sundays. We still pay rent or a mortgage for Sundays. It's the Jewish or even Muslim Saturday, right? Or Friday, right? And there are 7 days in the week. You can be adjusted at the major chains like The Joint 7 days a week. I've had clients to be open 7 days a week. Again, I don't think any one doc, it's necessary to work 7 days a week. I would advise against it. However, with multiple docs, certainly with 3, but even with 2, right, you could look at being open 7 days a week. It's unnecessary, but it is doable, which is my point. And so all of us have the ability to be functioning at 200 visits per doc. There's plenty of time. My smallest office was in Manhattan. It was under 350 square feet. The most common comment was, oh, what a lovely office. It could readily see 200 people in a week. It was not an issue, right? So you can see 200 right in where you have right now. I want you to really experience 200. If you are not at 200, if you are not at whatever number you want to be, you're at 400, you want to be at 500, you're at 50, you want to be at 200. I want you to dummy the lines. I want you to pretend as if. I want you to build out the appointment book, to 57 visits today. We have 36 actual scheduled, and we're going to role play the other 21. We have, we're 1 new patient and 1 report of findings short. We're going to role play that. We go and do the report of findings. We practice the script. We're away for 30 minutes. We're doing it. And now people are building up. Now we're servicing the 5 people that show up. We need to role play a 6th. We want to role play what the next level is. If you're not at 200, I want to invite you to, what does 200 look like today? And how can we role play that? And to do that regularly, to act as if, to project it out there, to make it happen, to be focused on the outcome. And 200 a week is righteous. That's why I'm so adamant about it. And so how many extras do you have to add to role play? How many regulars, how many specials, and how do you make it? Right? And so that is the concept of the appointment book. We have 10 minutes to go. I'd love to hear some takeaways, some comments, some questions about anything that I talked about. And we can do it this way. Who would like to go first? Who wants to share? I will pick right on you. Roxbury Clinic, what say you? Can you share by voice? See if they're on. Dr. Fenn?
I want to see another magic trick, but the magic comes from the healthy spine, and I'd really like to block them out. We do a good job of getting a lot of people in and adjusting people, just making it happen no matter what. But having just in our minds where, especially my current front desk, it's a rock star to get everything where it's just more organized. But we have the prime time, the new patients, and having that all mapped out is going to be key.
Awesome. Krista, can you speak? Do you have a mic? See if she's around. Dr. Mimi, what say you? She may not have a mic. DCG Inc. Can anybody unmute? Dr. Kim, you can unmute. One more takeaway. Still muted. We need to unmute. All right. This will be posted in the Facebook group. So if you're not a member of the Facebook group, no, Mike, I got it. Thanks. No problem. Sorry about that. Again, you'll have access to it. If you're a guest today and want to speak to me about practice building in general, associates, or anything else, feel free to reach out for me. Love seeing all of you. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you guys later.